No, I have no idea what a quackling is or what a quackta or a stifling. I can't even say the words.
We are starting to realize the challenge of presenting the way a character feels while staying consistent to their point of view. This is something that has come up a little bit in my writing in this past week, and we're going to talk about that, and then also going to talk about some of the ways that we have seen other media do this well, and also maybe not do this quite so well.
Yeah, and you shared with me some of the writing that you had done, adding to the scene that we've been talking about recently, Arnold processing some of his thoughts. And I loved the way that you conveyed, in a way that makes sense to me as a reader, how his mind was swimming. You said that it felt like his mind was reeling after, like he would feel after coming off of a merry-go-round.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember what it was like riding merry-go-round as a child. But I also started to realize that I think, and I'm not sure, but I think that merry-go-rounds are not really part of playgrounds anymore. And Arnold being 16, he may not have had experience with a merry-go-round.
Right. I believe the exact phrase was his mind felt like a kid who had just gotten off a merry-go-round trying to find something to grab onto for stability. Something like that.
Right.
But yeah, I was looking up after we had talked about this, and merry-go-rounds are much less popular on playgrounds. There's some safety concerns, but they're still there in some places, but not nearly as common as they used to be. So is that a phrase that Arnold would use to describe how he feels, or is it, I don't know what the term is, it's not quite anachronistic, but out of character maybe?
Yeah,
is it out of character for him, for his mind to be described that way while we are in his mind?
And just before we go too deep into this, just understanding that where we are in the writing process, we can recognize that what I'll call point of view consistency or continuity is something that will be important, but we don't want it to get in the way of progress, because I think you did an excellent job of, in this phase of the writing, to make sure that we can at least let the reader feel what the character is feeling. That's great progress. This can be a great placeholder phrase. Later, we can deal with point of view continuity in another editing revision.
Right. So the challenge is, how do we make sure it's point of view consistent, but still gets the message across? And some of the things that we've looked at is in stories that take place in vastly different areas,
completely different universes,
right?
Or galaxies far, far away.
Yes, or a galaxy far, far away. How do you use an idiom that makes sense in the world, but also makes sense to your audience? And one of the ones that we remembered is a idiom from Star Wars that goes, "If that's not the quackta calling the stifling slimy."
Like, I know exactly what you're saying, even though I have no idea what a quackling is or what quackta or a stifling. I can't even say the words.
Right. These are things that clearly must exist somewhere in the Star Wars universe, and must be slimy, but other than that, we don't know what they are. But it's not important. We don't need to know what they are. It's something that feels natural for the characters to say and still gets the point across, because we have that familiarity of, oh, it has the same pattern as the pot calling the kettle black.
Right. So we know the idiom, even if we can recognize it when it's been transformed into something that is has point of view continuity.
Mm-hmm. And a similar thing in Star Wars, not quite the same, is the phrase bantha fodder. It is used as an insult, calling something worthless, and there's not really a pattern there that we can align it with, but you can look at the context and tell, well, that character said that in a very demeaning way, so it's an insult of some kind. And from the context, you can gather what it is that the phrase is supposed to mean.
And in contrast to those good examples, we're thinking of the recurring meme that comes from the Lord of the Rings movie trilogy, where the orcs say, "Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys." And orcs, at least the way that they're presented in the movie, orcs have no idea what a restaurant is. The concept of a menu is completely foreign. There's some breaking of continuity with the orcs' point of view.
Mm-hmm. It's a phrase that makes a whole lot of sense to the audience, and if we were in a similar situation, that might be what we would say, but we're not orcs.
Right.
And so there's the joke of, well, the fact that this phrase exists in the movie means that orcs must know what a restaurant is. And if an orc knows what a restaurant is, and all sorts of continuity that breaks down the more you think about it. But that's a example of a point of view continuity that doesn't quite work, even though it does do a good job of getting across the message to the audience. So that's something that we're trying to find, that balance of keeping point of view continuity while also making sure that our audience still knows what we're talking about and we're being good at painting a good picture for them. But again, as you said, the specifics of that is more for a later draft than for what we're doing right now.
Yep.
So our question for you today is, what is an example of point of view continuity with idioms or analogies done either really well or done poorly? Let us know in the comments, and we will see you next week.